The cold metal of Clara Whitfield's mother's lace shawl pressed against her trembling fingers as the storekeeper shook his head one final time. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitfield. I just can't." The words echoed through Carter's general store like a death sentence. 8-year-old Lily's hand tightened around her mother's worn coat, and Clara felt the stares of every person in that store burning into her back. The widow who couldn't even buy flour. Then boots scraped against wood behind her. A voice she'd never heard before, low and quiet, cut through her shame. "Ride with me. It's too cold tonight." Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Clara didn't turn around. She couldn't. The humiliation had already stripped her bare in front of half the town, and now some stranger was offering charity she hadn't even asked for. Her jaw clenched as she stared at the flour sacks stacked behind the counter. So close, and yet impossibly far. "Ma'am," the voice said again. This time she turned. The man standing 3 feet behind her was tall, maybe 6'2", with shoulders that filled his worn canvas coat. His face was weathered in that way that made it impossible to guess his age. Could have been 30, could have been 45. Dark eyes looked at her with something she couldn't quite place. Not pity, not judgment, just steady. "I don't need," Clara started. "It's 14 degrees outside," he said, his voice carrying no emotion whatsoever. "You're planning to walk 5 miles. "We've walked in colder," Clara said, her chin lifting even as Lily pressed closer against her side. The man glanced down at Lily. The little girl's coat was 2 sizes too small, the sleeves stopping well above her wrists. Her cheeks were already red from the cold they'd endured just getting into town. "I'm sure you have," the man said quietly. Then he looked back at Clara. "But you don't have to tonight." Thomas Carter, the storekeeper, cleared his throat uncomfortably behind the counter. "Cole, you don't have to—" "Wasn't asking your opinion, Tom." Cole's voice didn't rise, but something in it made the storekeeper's mouth snap shut. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. This man, Cole, everyone in the store was watching him like he was something dangerous. Even Tom Carter, who'd run this store for 20 years and never backed down from anything, had gone quiet. "Thank you for the offer," Clara said carefully. "But we'll manage." "Will you?" Cole tilted his head slightly. "Because from where I'm standing, managing looks like a woman about to walk her daughter into a storm that's rolling in from the north right now. Should hit in about an hour." Clara opened her mouth to argue, but Lily's small voice cut through first. "Mama, I'm cold." 4 words. That's all it took for Clara's resolve to crack like ice under pressure. She looked down at her daughter, her beautiful, brave daughter, who hadn't complained once during the 2-mile walk into town, who'd watched her mother offer up her grandmother's shawl without a single tear, who was now shivering despite trying to hide it. "All right," Clara whispered, then louder, "All right." Cole nodded once. "My wagon's outside." He moved toward the door without waiting for a response, and Clara found herself following him, Lily's hand still clutched in hers. Behind them, she heard the immediate eruption of whispers, but she didn't look back. She'd given Red Hollow enough of her dignity for one day. The wind hit them the moment they stepped outside, and Clara instinctively pulled Lily closer. True to Cole's word, dark clouds were building on the northern horizon, moving fast. Cole's wagon was a plain work vehicle, nothing fancy, pulled by 2 sturdy horses that looked better fed than most people in town. He climbed up to the driver's seat without ceremony, then looked down at Clara and Lily, still standing in the street. "You'll freeze down there," he said. Clara lifted Lily up first, and the little girl scrambled onto the bench seat. Then Clara climbed up herself, settling Lily between them. The proximity to this strange man made her acutely aware of every breath, every movement. Cole pulled a thick wool blanket from behind the seat and handed it across Lily to Clara. "For the girl," he said. Clara wrapped it around Lily immediately, and her daughter's shivering began to slow. The blanket was clean and smelled faintly of pine. Cole clicked his tongue, and the horses started moving. They left Red Hollow behind, heading west toward the Whitfield homestead. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the creak of the wagon wheels and the steady rhythm of hoofbeats. "How do you know where we live?" Clara asked, finally, unable to stop herself. "Small town," Cole said. "Everyone knows the Whitfield place." "Everyone knows it's failing, you mean?" Cole glanced at her briefly. "Didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Clara's hands twisted in her lap. "The whole town's been watching us struggle since James died. Watching and waiting to see how long it takes before we lose everything." "Your husband," Cole said. It wasn't a question. 2 years ago. Pneumonia took him in 3 days. Clara's voice went flat, the way it always did when she talked about James. "Left me with 40 acres I don't know how to work, and debts I can't pay." "What about family?" "James's brother took what little money we had in the bank and disappeared. Said he was securing his inheritance before the creditors could claim it." The bitterness in Clara's voice was sharp enough to cut. "My parents are dead. My sister married a railroad man and moved to Chicago. I haven't heard from her in 4 years." Lily's voice came out small from beneath the blanket. "Mama says we're doing fine on our own." Cole looked at the little girl. "I'm sure you are." But his eyes said something different when they flicked back to Clara. They said he'd seen the way her hands shook in the store, the way her coat hung loose on a frame that had lost too much weight, the desperation she'd tried so hard to hide. "Why did you help us?" Clara asked abruptly. "You don't know us." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe that's exactly why." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." The storm reached them about 20 minutes from town. Snow began to fall in thick, heavy flakes that quickly turned the world white. Cole urged the horses faster, and Clara pulled Lily closer, tucking the blanket more securely around her small body. "Tell me about your land," Cole said suddenly. Clara blinked. "What?" "Your 40 acres. What's on it?" "A cabin, a barn that's falling apart, fences that haven't been mended in 2 years, fields that haven't produced a decent crop since James died." Clara's voice cracked slightly. "Why are you asking?" "Just curious." "Nobody's just curious about a failing homestead." Cole's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Maybe I want to know what I'm getting into." "Getting into?" Clara's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "Means I saw you offer up your mother's shawl for a sack of flour. Means I saw Tom Carter turn you away because the whole town's decided you're a bad investment. Means I'm wondering what it takes for 40 acres to produce again." "That's none of your concern," Clara said sharply. "Maybe not," Cole agreed. "But it could be." Clara stared at him. "I don't understand." "You own land," Cole said, his voice maddeningly calm. "You don't have the strength or skill to work it. I have the strength and skill. Seems like a problem with a simple solution." "Are you?" Clara's breath caught. "Are you offering to help work my land?" "I'm saying it's a possibility worth discussing." "Why?" The question burst out of Clara like something that had been building pressure for hours. "Why would you do that? What do you want from us?" Cole pulled the horses to a stop. Through the falling snow, Clara could just make out the outline of her cabin about 100 yards ahead. He turned to look at her directly, and for the first time, she saw something behind his steady expression. Something that looked almost like loneliness. Maybe I'm tired of watching people struggle when they don't have to, he said quietly. Maybe I know what it's like to have nothing and no one. Maybe I've got time and skills I'm not using for anything meaningful. He paused. Or maybe I just don't like seeing a woman and her daughter go hungry when there's 40 acres of good land going to waste. Clara's throat tightened. I can't pay you. Didn't ask you to. Then what? We'll figure it out. Cole clicked his tongue, and the horses started moving again. Right now, let's just get you home before this storm gets worse. They reached the cabin just as the snow began falling so thick it was hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Cole helped Lily down first, then offered his hand to Clara. She hesitated only a moment before taking it. His grip was strong and calloused, the hand of someone who knew hard work intimately. Clara expected him to leave immediately, but instead, Cole walked around the side of the cabin without a word. She heard the sound of an axe hitting wood a moment later. "Mama, what's he doing?" Lily asked. "I don't know, sweetheart." Clara got Lily inside and lit the fire in the stove. They had enough wood for tonight at least, though tomorrow was another question entirely. The cabin was small, just 2 rooms, and the cold seeped through every crack in the walls. Clara added their last log to the fire and tried not to think about how they'd stay warm once it burned through. The sound of splitting wood continued for another 30 minutes. Then it stopped. Clara heard footsteps on the porch, and a moment later there was a solid thump against the door. She opened it to find Cole standing there, snow covering his hat and shoulders. Behind him, stacked against the cabin wall, was enough firewood to last them a week. "You didn't have to," Clara started. Cole held up a burlap sack. "Tom Carter sent this. Flour, beans, salt pork. Said to tell you he's sorry." Clara's eyes burned. "That wasn't necessary." "Probably wasn't," Cole agreed. He set the sack inside the door. "But it's here anyway." He turned to leave, and Clara found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "Wait." Cole paused. "Why are you really doing this?" Clara asked. "The truth this time." Cole looked at her for a long moment. "Because 10 years ago, someone helped me when I had nothing. Gave me a chance when everyone else had given up. And I've been trying to figure out how to pay that back ever since." "So this is charity?" "No," Cole said quietly. "This is what neighbors are supposed to do for each other. This is what community means. This is—" He stopped, then shook his head. "This is just the right thing to do." Before Clara could respond, he was walking back toward his wagon, disappearing into the white curtain of falling snow. She watched until she couldn't see him anymore, then closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with fear. Because she knew what hope felt like, and she knew exactly how much it hurt when hope was taken away. The storm lasted 3 days. 3 days of snow so heavy that Clara couldn't see the barn from the cabin window. 3 days of wind that howled through every crack and threatened to tear the roof off. 3 days of Lily asking when they could go outside, and Clara trying to pretend everything was fine, while their food supplies dwindled, and the cold crept deeper into their bones. On the morning of the 4th day, Clara woke to silence. She pushed open the door to find the world transformed. Snow had drifted against the cabin in waves 3 feet high. The path to the barn, what little path had existed, was completely buried. And in the distance, barely visible through the morning haze, she could see smoke rising from the direction of the Ridgeback Ranch, where Cole worked. 7 miles away. Clara spent that day trying to dig a path to the barn. She managed about 10 feet before her arms gave out and her lungs burned from the cold air. Lily tried to help, her small hands pushing snow with a bucket, but it was pointless. They were trapped. That evening, as the sun set and Clara contemplated breaking apart one of their chairs for firewood, she heard something outside. Hoofbeats, moving slowly through the deep snow. She grabbed James's old rifle, unloaded, but whoever was outside didn't need to know that, and opened the door. Cole sat on his horse, snow crusted on his coat and face, leading a second horse behind him, loaded with supplies. "Thought you might need some things," he said simply. Clara stared at him. "You rode 7 miles through waist-deep snow." "Wasn't that deep the whole way." Cole dismounted and started unloading the pack horse. Firewood, more food, hay for any animals they might still have. "Your barn door's broken. Snow's been blowing in all week." "I know," Clara said quietly. "I was going to fix it when you had time," Cole finished. "And tools, and knowledge of how to actually fix it." It should have sounded condescending, but it didn't. It just sounded true. "I'll take care of it before I leave," Cole said. He carried the first load of supplies toward the cabin. Clara stepped aside to let him in. Lily jumped up from where she'd been sitting by the stove. "You came back," she said, her face lighting up in a way that made Clara's chest ache. "Said I would." Cole set down the supplies. "You been keeping your mama company?" "I've been very good," Lily said seriously. "Mama says I'm her best helper." "I bet you are." Cole glanced at Clara. "Where's your barn?" Clara pointed. For the next 2 hours, while darkness fell and the temperature dropped, Cole worked. Clara could hear him hammering, moving things, the low sound of his voice talking to the horses. When he finally came back, his face was red from the cold, but the work was done. "Should hold until spring," he said, "though you'll need to replace some of those boards eventually." "Thank you," Clara said. The words felt completely inadequate. Cole pulled off his gloves and looked at her. "I've been thinking about what I said, about the land." Clara's pulse quickened. "And? You own 40 acres. You're drowning trying to manage it alone. I work at the Ridgeback, but I've got time. Mornings, evenings, Sundays." He paused. "If we worked together, that land could produce again, could feed you and the girl, could maybe even turn a small profit." "Why would you do that?" Clara asked. "What do you get out of it?" "A place to work, something that matters." Cole's voice stayed even. "And maybe the satisfaction of seeing something grow instead of die." Clara looked at Lily, who was watching both of them with wide eyes. Then she looked back at Cole, this strange, quiet man who'd ridden through a blizzard to help people he barely knew. "What would this partnership look like?" she asked carefully. "I'd come 3-4 times a week. We'd repair what needs repairing, plant what needs planting, build what needs building." Cole met her eyes. "And in return, when the land produces again, I'd take a share. 20%. 20%? Clara's voice rose. "That's fair," Cole interrupted. "Because right now, you're getting 0% of nothing. 20% of something is better than that." He was right. Clara hated that he was right, but he was. "What about the town?" she asked. "What will people say?" "People always have something to say." Cole's expression didn't change. "Question is whether you care more about their talk or your daughter's future." Clara looked at Lily again. Her daughter was thin, too thin, her cheeks hollow in a way that kept Clara awake at night. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. "All right," Clara whispered. "We'll try it, but I want it clear. This is a business arrangement, nothing more." "Understood," Cole said. "And if it doesn't work, if the land still fails?" "Then we tried," Cole said simply. "But we won't know unless we start." He left 20 minutes later, riding back into the darkness toward the Ridgeback Ranch. Clara watched from the window until his silhouette disappeared, Lily warm and fed beside her for the first time in weeks.
"Mama,"
Lily said quietly,
"is Mr. Cole going to help us now?"
"Yes, sweetheart," Clara said. "I think he is."
"Good,"
Lily said.
"I like him. He's nice."
Clara didn't respond, because nice was a word for simple things, and nothing about Cole Bennett felt simple. He was complicated in a way that made her nervous, made her aware of depths she couldn't see, currents she couldn't read. But he was also the only person in Red Hollow who'd looked at her and seen something worth saving. And for now, that was enough. Cole showed up 3 days later, just after dawn, and Clara hadn't expected him. She was outside trying to break the ice on the water pump when she heard the wagon. Her heart jumped before she could stop it, and she hated herself for the reaction. This was business. Just business.
"Didn't know you were coming today,"
she called out, not looking at him. "Told you 3 to 4 times a week." Cole climbed down from the wagon, and Clara saw he'd brought lumber, tools, wire for fencing. "Figured I'd start with what's urgent."
"Everything's urgent,"
Clara muttered. "Then we prioritize." Cole walked past her toward the barn, assessing it with the same steady gaze he seemed to apply to everything. "Barn first. Can't keep animals or store feed if it collapses. Then fences. Then the fields."
"I don't have animals anymore," Clara said. "Sold the last cow in October."
Cole stopped, turned. "You sold your only cow?"
"We needed to eat."
"What about milk, butter, cheese?" "What about it?" Clara's voice sharpened.
"You can't drink milk you don't have, Mr. Bennett."
Something flickered across Cole's face. Anger, maybe, or frustration. It's Cole, and selling your last cow was short-sighted. Short-sighted? Clara's hands clenched. My daughter was hungry. The cow kept us alive for 3 more months. That's not short-sighted. That's survival. Survival that leaves you worse off than before, Cole said. Now you've got no cow, no milk, and you're still hungry. Then what should I have done? Clara's voice rose despite herself. Let Lily starve while I kept a cow I couldn't afford to feed through winter anyway? Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, you should have asked for help before it got that bad. I did ask, Clara said, her throat tight. The whole town said no. You asked the town, Cole said, not me. The words hung between them like something physical. Clara turned back to the pump, hammering at the ice with more force than necessary. Well, you're here now, she said. So what do you want me to do? Stay out of my way while I work on the barn. Keep Lily inside where it's warm. And stop trying to prove you don't need help. Clara's jaw clenched, but she didn't argue. She went inside, where Lily was drawing pictures with a piece of charcoal on old newspaper. Is Mr. Cole here? Lily asked immediately. Yes. Can I go see him? No, he's working. But Mama, I said no, Lily. Her daughter's face fell, and guilt twisted in Clara's stomach. But she couldn't shake the feeling that letting Lily get attached to Cole was dangerous. People left. People died. People promised things they couldn't deliver. She'd learned that lesson with James, and she wasn't going to let her daughter learn it the hard way. The sound of hammering filled the morning. Clara tried to focus on mending clothes, but her attention kept drifting to the window. Cole worked with an efficiency that spoke of years of experience. No wasted movements, no hesitation. He knew exactly what he was doing. Around noon, Clara brought him water and a piece of bread. It was all she had to offer. Thank you, Cole said, accepting both without comment. It's not much. It's enough. He drank half the water, then looked at her. Your daughter keeps watching me from the window. Whitfield, you're surviving, but you're not living. And that girl in there deserves better than just surviving. Clara snatched the water cup back. You don't know anything about what my daughter deserves. I know she lights up every time she sees me, Cole said quietly. And I know that's because there's nobody else in her life who pays attention to her except you. That's not criticism, that's observation. Clara wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Because he was right. God help her, he was right. What would you have me do? She asked, hating how small her voice sounded. Take her to town so everyone can whisper about the poor widow and her failing farm? Let her hear what they say about us? Teach her how to ride, Cole said. Teach her about animals and land and work. Give her something to be proud of instead of something to hide from. I don't know how to do any of that. I do, Cole said. If you'll let me. Clara stared at him. Why do you care? Because I was that kid once, Cole said. And for the first time, his voice carried weight beyond the words. The one everyone whispered about. The one nobody wanted around. And the only thing that saved me was someone taking the time to— Why can't we trust him? Because trust is what gets you hurt, Clara wanted to say. Because your father promised me forever and gave me 2 years. Because this town promised us community and gave us judgment. Because hope is the cruelest thing in the world when it gets taken away. But she couldn't say any of that to an 8-year-old. We can trust him to do what he said he'd do, Clara said carefully. But that doesn't mean we let ourselves need him. Do you understand? Lily's face scrunched up. No. You will someday, Clara said softly. I hope you won't have to, but you will. 2 weeks passed. Cole came every other day, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, after his work at the Ridgeback. The barn slowly transformed from something held together by hope and rust into an actual structure. He replaced boards, reinforced the frame, fixed the roof. When he finished, he moved on to the fences. Clara watched him work from the cabin window more than she wanted to admit. There was something almost meditative about the way Cole approached each task. Methodical, patient, thorough. He never rushed, never cut corners. Every nail driven perfectly. Every board measured twice. You're staring again, Lily said one afternoon. Clara jerked away from the window. I'm just checking his progress. Uh-huh. Lily's tone was far too knowing for 8 years old. Don't sass me, young lady. But Lily just grinned, and Clara realized with a start that it was the first time she'd seen her daughter genuinely smile in months. The realization hit her like a physical blow. When had Lily stopped smiling? When had Clara stopped noticing? That evening, when Cole came to the door to let Clara know he was leaving, she surprised herself by speaking. Would you like to stay for supper? Cole's eyebrows rose slightly. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, Clara interrupted. I'm asking if you'd like to. It's just soup, but there's enough. Cole hesitated, and Clara could see him weighing something in his mind. Finally, he nodded. All right, thank you. The meal was awkward at first. Clara wasn't used to having anyone at her table besides Lily, and the cabin felt smaller with Cole's presence filling it. But Lily chattered enough for all of them, telling Cole about a bird she'd seen, about the pictures she'd drawn, about how Mama had let her help with the soup. Your Mama's teaching you to cook? Cole asked. Yes, she says every woman should know how to feed herself. Your Mama's right. Cole glanced at Clara. That's good teaching. Clara felt her face warm and focused on her soup. Mr. Cole, Lily said suddenly, do you have a family? Lily, Clara started, but Cole held up a hand. It's all right. He looked at the little girl. No, I don't. Not anymore. Did they die? Lily asked, with the blunt curiosity of children.
Lily,
Clara's voice sharpened.
that's not appropriate.
Yes, Cole said quietly. They died. A long time ago. Lily's face fell.
I'm sorry. My papa died too.
I know, Cole said. And I'm sorry about that.
Mama says he's watching over us from heaven.
Lily tilted her head.
Do you think your family is watching over you?
Cole's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I don't know. Maybe.
I hope so, Lily said seriously. Because then they can see that you're helping us, and they'll be proud of you.
Something cracked in Cole's expression, just for a second, just a flash of pain so raw that Clara's breath caught. Then it was gone, locked back behind that steady, controlled mask. That's kind of you to say, Cole said, his voice rougher than usual. After supper, while Lily got ready for bed, Cole helped Clara clean the dishes. They worked in silence, and Clara was acutely aware of how close they were standing, how their hands occasionally brushed when passing plates.
Thank you for supper,
Cole said finally.
Thank you for everything you've been doing,
Clara replied.
The barn, the fences. I couldn't have managed any of it alone. That's the point, Cole said. You don't have to manage it alone anymore.
The words should have been comforting, but they terrified her, because they sounded like a promise, and Clara had learned not to believe in promises.
Mr. Bennett, Cole, I need you to understand something,
Clara said carefully.
This arrangement we have, it's temporary. Once the land is producing again, once I can manage on my own.
You think I'm going to leave? Cole said. It wasn't a question.
Everyone does.
I'm not everyone.
That's what they all say.
Clara's voice broke slightly.
But life happens. Circumstances change. People move on. And I need to be ready for that. Lily needs to be ready for that.
Cole studied her face. What happened to you?
Life,
Clara said simply.
Life happened.
And it taught me that the only person I can truly rely on is myself.
That's a lonely way to live.
It's a safe way to live.
Safe and alive aren't the same thing,
Cole said, echoing his earlier words.
And you're teaching your daughter to be just as isolated as you are.
I'm teaching her to be self-sufficient.
No, Cole said. You're teaching her not to trust anyone. There's a difference.
Clara's hands clenched around the dish she was holding.
You have no right.
I have every right to say what I see, Cole interrupted. That little girl in there is starving for connection, not just for food, for people, for community, for something beyond these four walls. And you're so afraid of getting hurt again that you're willing to let her starve.
Get out,
Clara whispered. Cole didn't move. I'm not trying to hurt you.
I said get out.
Clara's voice rose, and she heard Lily stir in the other room. She forced herself to lower her tone.
Leave. Now.
Cole grabbed his coat and hat. At the door, he paused. I'll be back on Thursday to finish the south fence, unless you tell me otherwise. Fine, Clara bit out. And Mrs. Whitfield? Cole looked back at her. Running from connection doesn't keep you safe. It just keeps you alone. Then he was gone, and Clara stood in her empty cabin with tears streaming down her face, hating him for being right and hating herself for caring. Thursday came. Clara spent the morning rehearsing what she'd say when Cole arrived, that she appreciated his help, but his opinions about her parenting weren't welcome, that he needed to maintain professional boundaries, that this was a business arrangement and nothing more. But when Cole's wagon rolled up at dawn, he didn't come to the cabin first. He went straight to the fence and started working as if their argument had never happened. No acknowledgement, No apology. Just quiet, steady work. Clara watched from the window, frustration building. How dare he act like nothing was wrong? How dare he just continue? By noon, she couldn't stand it anymore. She marched outside with water and bread, same as always. "Thank you," Cole said, accepting them without meeting her eyes. "We need to talk about what you said," Clara started. "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. You had no right." "I spoke out of turn," Cole interrupted. "Your daughter, your choices. I apologize." Clara blinked. She'd been prepared for an argument, not an apology. "Oh. I'm here to work the land," Cole continued, "not to tell you how to live your life. That was overstepping, and I'm sorry." "But you meant what you said," Clara pressed. Cole finally looked at her. "Every word. But that doesn't make it my place to say it." They stood there in the cold March wind, and Clara realized something that made her stomach flip. She'd been angry at Cole for seeing through her defenses. But what terrified her more was that part of her wanted him to keep looking. "My husband died on a Tuesday," Clara said abruptly. "He woke up fine. By afternoon, he was burning with fever. By Thursday, he was gone. And the whole time I kept thinking, this can't be happening. We have plans. We have dreams. He promised me we'd grow old together." She swallowed hard. But promises don't mean anything when life decides otherwise. Cole's expression softened. "I'm sorry. After he died, the town promised they'd help, that we were family, that we'd never be alone." Clara's laugh was bitter. "But help has conditions. Family has limits. And the minute things got hard, the minute we couldn't pay our debts fast enough, all those promises evaporated." "So you stopped believing in them," Cole said. "I stopped being foolish enough to depend on them," Clara corrected. "There's a difference." "And what about your daughter?" Cole asked gently. "What happens when she grows up believing the same thing? That she's alone in the world, that everyone will leave, that trusting anyone is foolish." Clara's eyes burned. "Then she'll be prepared for reality. Or she'll be so afraid of pain that she never takes any risks," Cole said. "Never loves anyone. Never lets herself hope for anything better than just surviving. Is that really what you want for her?" "I want her safe," Clara whispered. "Safe from what? From life?" Cole shook his head. "That's not protection, Mrs. Whitfield. That's a prison." The words hit like a slap, and Clara turned away. "You should get back to work." "Clara." The sound of her first name and his voice stopped her cold. "People left me too," Cole said quietly. "People I trusted. People I loved. They died. They abandoned me. They betrayed me. And I spent years believing exactly what you believe now, that trusting anyone was the most dangerous thing I could do." Clara turned back slowly. "But you know what I learned?" Cole continued. "Being alone doesn't hurt less. It just means you hurt without anyone to share the burden. And that kind of loneliness, that kind of isolation, it kills something inside you, makes you forget what it feels like to be human." "Then why help us?" Clara asked. "If you're so convinced that connection matters, why risk getting attached to people who might leave?" Cole smiled, but it was sad. "Because maybe that's the point. Maybe risking the pain is how you know you're still alive." They stood in silence, and Clara felt something inside her chest crack open. Something she'd kept locked tight for 2 years. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "How to let people in. How to trust again." "Neither do I," Cole said. "But maybe we can figure it out together." "That sounds like a partnership," Clara said. and there was the smallest hint of something almost like hope in her voice. "It does, doesn't it?" Cole's eyes held hers. "So what do you say, Mrs. Whitfield? Are we still in business?" Clara thought about Lily's smile when Cole arrived, about the barn standing strong for the first time in years, about the way her daughter had said, "I hope your family is proud of you," and the pain that had flashed across Cole's face. She thought about being alone versus being hurt, and she made a choice. "Yes," Clara said. "We're still in business. But Cole?" "Yes?" "Stop calling me Mrs. Whitfield. It's Clara." Something warm flickered in Cole's eyes. "All right then, Clara." Her name and his voice sounded different than it had when James said it. Rougher, more careful, like he understood exactly how much trust it took to offer it. And somehow, that made all the difference. Spring came slowly to Montana that year, but it came. The snow melted in patches, revealing dead grass and mud beneath. The mornings were still brutal, but by afternoon, if the sun was out, you could almost believe winter might actually end. Clara found herself watching for Cole's wagon more than she cared to admit, and Lily stopped even pretending she wasn't waiting by the window. "He's late today," Lily said one morning in early April. "He's not late," Clara replied. "He doesn't have a schedule." "He comes every Tuesday and Thursday. It's Thursday." Maybe something came up at the ridgeback. But even as Clara said it, unease prickled along her spine. Cole was steady as clockwork. If he said he'd be there, he was there. When the wagon finally rolled up 2 hours past dawn, Clara was already outside. Cole climbed down slower than usual, and she saw immediately that something was wrong. His jaw was set tighter than normal, and there was a careful way he moved that spoke of pain being hidden. "What happened?" Clara asked. "Nothing." "Cole." "I said nothing." He reached into the wagon bed and pulled out a crate, then winced. Clara stepped forward and grabbed the crate from his hands. "You're hurt." "It's fine." "Show me." "Clara, show me or leave," Clara said firmly. "Those are your options." Cole stared at her for a long moment, then sighed and unbuttoned his coat. His shirt underneath was torn at the shoulder, and Clara could see blood seeping through the fabric. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Horse threw me yesterday. Caught my shoulder on a fence post on the way down." "And you didn't think to maybe take a day to recover?" "Took yesterday," Cole said. "That's enough." "You're bleeding through your shirt." "It's not that bad." Clara made a frustrated sound and grabbed his arm. "Inside. Now." "I have work." "Inside," Clara repeated, using the same voice she used with Lily when argument wasn't an option. "Or I swear to God I will make you leave and not come back." Cole's eyebrows rose. "You're threatening me?" "I'm offering you medical attention whether you want it or not. Your choice how you interpret that." Something that might have been amusement flickered across Cole's face. "Yes, ma'am." Inside, Clara made him sit at the table while she heated water and found the cleanest cloth she had. Lily watched wide-eyed from her corner. "Is Mr. Cole dying?" she asked. "No, sweetheart," Clara said. "He's just stubborn." "I'm right here," Cole pointed out. "Then stop being stubborn." Clara brought the water and cloth over. "Shirt off." Cole hesitated, and Clara realized with a start that she'd never seen him without a shirt. The thought made her face heat, which annoyed her. This was medical necessity, nothing more. "Clara," Cole said quietly, "there are things, scars, that might upset your daughter." Clara's hands stilled. She looked at Lily. "Sweetheart, why don't you go draw me a picture in the other room?" "But I want to help." "Now, Lily." Her daughter recognized the tone and left without further argument. Once the door closed, Clara turned back to Cole. Shirt off. Cole pulled it over his head carefully, and Clara's breath caught. His shoulder was a mess, torn skin, bruising already forming in dark patches. But that wasn't what made her freeze. His torso was covered in scars. Old ones. The kind that came from knives and bullets and violence Clara had only heard about in stories. "Who did this to you?" she whispered. "Different people. Different times." Cole's voice was flat. "Long time ago." Clara forced herself to focus on the wound. She cleaned it as gently as she could, but Cole still hissed when the cloth touched torn flesh. "Sorry," she murmured. "It's fine." "Stop saying that." Clara worked in silence for a moment, then, "These scars, they're not from ranch work." "No." "Are you going to tell me where they're from?" Cole was quiet for so long Clara didn't think he'd answer. Then, "I told you someone gave me a second chance 10 years ago. Taught me how to work land instead of living by the gun." Clara's hands stilled. "The gun? I wasn't always Cole Bennett," he said quietly. "And I wasn't always someone you'd want around your daughter." "What does that mean?" "It means there are things in my past I'm not proud of. Things I've spent a decade trying to make right." Cole looked at her directly. "Things that might catch up with me someday." Fear spiked through Clara's chest. "Are you in danger?" "I don't know," Cole admitted. "Maybe. But I'm trying to be someone different now. Someone better." "Who were you before?" Cole's jaw tightened. "Someone angry. Someone violent. Someone who solved problems with bullets instead of words." Clara should have been terrified. Should have asked him to leave and never come back. But instead, she found herself thinking about the way Cole was gentle with Lily. The way he repaired things instead of breaking them. The way he'd ridden through a blizzard to make sure they had food and firewood. "Who you were doesn't matter," Clara heard herself say. "Who you are, that's what I see." Cole's eyes searched her face. "You mean that?" "I do." Something shifted in the air between them. Clara became acutely aware that she was standing inches from a half-naked man in her kitchen, her hands on his bare shoulder. She stepped back quickly and busied herself with bandaging the wound. "Thank you," Cole said softly. "You're welcome." "Clara, you should rest today," she interrupted, not ready for whatever he was about to say. "Come back tomorrow when you're not bleeding." Cole pulled his shirt back on carefully. "All right, but tomorrow I'm bringing lumber for the porch. Whole thing's rotting through." "Tomorrow," Clara agreed. After he left, Lily emerged from the other room. "Is he okay?" "He'll be fine." "Mama?" Lily's voice was small. "Why does Mr. Cole have so many hurts on him?" Clara knelt down to her daughter's level. "Because life wasn't kind to him before. But he's trying to be better now." "Like how you're trying to be less sad?" The question hit Clara like a punch. "What?" "You used to be sad all the time," Lily said seriously, "after Papa died. But lately you smile more, especially when Mr. Cole is here." Clara's throat tightened. "I smile because you make me happy, sweetheart." "I know," Lily said, "but it's different now. Like you're not just pretending anymore." Out of the mouths of children, Clara thought. "Go play, Lily." That night, Clara lay awake thinking about scars. The ones on Cole's body and the ones he carried inside. The ones she carried too. She thought about how he'd said, "Things might catch up with me someday," and how that sounded less like caution and more like expectation. She thought about trust and risk and whether she was strong enough to handle both. The next week, Something shifted in Red Hollow. Clara noticed it first when she went to town for supplies, something she'd been avoiding for months but couldn't put off any longer. She walked into Carter's general store with Lily, braced for stares and whispers. Instead, Tom Carter looked up and said, "Mrs. Whitfield, good to see you." Clara blinked. "Mr. Carter, I hear your barn's been repaired. Cole's work?" "Yes." "He's a good man," Tom said, and there was something almost like approval in his voice. "Takes care of what matters." Clara bought flour and beans on credit. Credit Tom extended without hesitation this time. As she left, she heard two women talking by the door. "Did you see her farm when you passed last week? The fences are up. Fields look like they might actually produce this year." "That's Cole Bennett's doing. Works himself half to death helping her." "Maybe she's not as hopeless as we thought." Maybe she's not as hopeless as we thought. The words echoed in Clara's head all the way home. The town was watching, just like before. But this time, they were seeing something different. Not a failing widow, but a woman rebuilding. Not charity, but partnership. It should have felt like validation. Instead, it felt like pressure. That evening, Cole showed up with something unexpected. A chicken. "What is that?" Clara asked. "Chicken," Cole said, as if it were obvious. "I can see that. Why do you have it?" "For you." Cole handed the crate to Lily, who squealed with delight. "Chickens lay eggs. Eggs you can eat or sell. Better investment than a cow right now because they're cheaper to feed." "Cole, I can't afford—" "Already paid for," he interrupted. "Consider it part of the partnership. We get the chickens laying, we split the egg profits, 60-40. 60-40? You get 60, Cole clarified. You're feeding them. Clara stared at him. You can't keep giving us things. Not giving, investing. Cole met her eyes. I told you, I've got a stake in this land producing now. Chickens are part of that. One chicken isn't going to— Got 3 more in the wagon, Cole said. And a rooster. Give it a few months. You'll have a whole flock. Lily was already naming the first chicken. This one's Daisy. Clara felt something in her chest squeeze. Cole, don't, he said quietly. Don't make this harder than it is. Just say thank you and let me help. Thank you, Clara whispered. You're welcome. They built a chicken coop that week, and Clara found herself laughing, actually laughing, when the rooster chased Cole across the yard. Lily giggled so hard she fell down, and even Cole's mouth twitched into something that might have been a smile. Not a word, he told Clara as he climbed over the fence to safety. Wouldn't dream of it, Clara said, still grinning, though I might mention it to the ladies in town next time I go. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? Cole looked at her, and something warm passed between them. Something that felt dangerous and wonderful and terrifying all at once. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Clara was hanging laundry when she saw the dust cloud on the road. 3 riders moving fast. Her stomach clenched immediately. Nothing good came from men riding that hard. Lily, inside, she called. But Mama! Now! Her daughter heard the fear and obeyed. Clara watched the riders approach, her hand instinctively reaching for where James's rifle used to be, before she remembered she'd sold it 6 months ago. The men reined up in her yard. They were rough-looking, all 3 of them, with hard eyes and guns on their hips. The kind of men Clara had learned to fear during her years on the frontier. Help you? She asked, keeping her voice steady. The lead rider leaned forward in his saddle. Looking for a man, goes by Cole Bennett. Works at the Ridgeback Ranch. Heard he's been spending time on this property. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. What do you want with him? That's our business, the man said. He here? No. When's he coming back? I don't know. The man's eyes narrowed. You're lying. I'm not.
He comes when he comes. I don't keep his schedule.
You're the widow he's been helping, the second rider said. Whitfield, right? Clara didn't answer. We heard about you in town, the first man continued. Everyone talking about how Cole Bennett saved the poor widow's farm. Real charitable of him. His smile was ugly. Except Cole Bennett isn't who he says he is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
His real name is Caleb Boone, the man said, and Clara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. And there's a $500 bounty on his head.
That's impossible, Clara said, but her voice sounded far away.
Wanted for murder in Kansas, robbery in Colorado. Been running for nearly 15 years. The man dismounted. Now where is he?
I told you, I don't know.
Then we'll wait.
You can't.
We can do whatever we want, ma'am. The man's hand rested on his gun. And we will, because that bounty's going to buy us a real nice winter. Clara stood there, frozen, as the three men settled in to wait. In the distance, she could see another dust cloud rising. Cole's wagon, coming right toward them. And there was no way to warn him. The next 20 minutes were the longest of Clara's life. She stood in the yard, heart hammering, watching Cole's wagon get closer. The bounty hunters watched too, hands hovering near their guns.
Mama?
Lily's voice came from inside.
What's happening?
Stay inside, Clara called, her voice sharper than she intended. Cole pulled up 50 feet away. He must have seen the strange horses, the waiting men, because his whole posture changed. He went very still, in a way that reminded Clara viscerally of the scars on his body. That him? The lead bounty hunter asked. Clara didn't answer. Cole climbed down from the wagon slowly, his eyes never leaving the three men. Clara, take Lily and go inside. We're not going anywhere, the lead hunter said. You're Caleb Boone. Cole didn't deny it. I haven't used that name in 10 years. But it's your name, the man pressed, and you're wanted, dead or alive. For crimes I committed when I was 20 years old, Cole said, his voice level. I've paid my debt. Not according to the law. The hunter's gun came out. You're coming with us. No, Clara said. Everyone looked at her. No, the hunter repeated. He's not going anywhere. Clara moved to stand between the men and Cole. You want him? You go through me first. Clara, Cole's voice held warning. Shut up, Clara said, not looking at him. She faced the bounty hunters. This man saved my life. Saved my daughter's life. He's worked this land for months, asking nothing in return. Whatever he did 15 years ago, that's not who he is now. Don't matter who he is now, the hunter said. Law's the law. Then the law's wrong, Clara said fiercely. And you're not taking him. Behind her, she heard more horses. She turned to see half the town riding up. Tom Carter, Bill Henderson from the saloon, Mary Sullivan and her husband, even old Reverend Thomas. They must have seen the bounty hunters ride through and followed. What's going on here? Tom demanded. These men are trying to arrest Cole, Clara said. They say he's wanted. For what? Things I did when I was young and angry and stupid, Cole said quietly. Things I've spent every day since trying to make right. So it's true? Tom asked. You're this Caleb Boone? I was, Cole said. I'm not anymore. The bounty hunter laughed. Touching story, but it don't change the bounty. Maybe it should, Bill Henderson said, stepping forward. I've known Cole 3 years, worked beside him at the Ridgeback. Never seen him be anything but honest and hard-working. He helped build my barn after the storm last year, Mary Sullivan added. Didn't ask for payment. He taught my son how to ride, another voice called out. One by one, people Clara had thought hated her, people who'd turned their backs when she needed help, stepped forward to defend Cole. to defend the man he'd become, rather than condemn the man he'd been. The lead bounty hunter's face darkened. "You folks are interfering with legal business." "We're telling you the truth," Reverend Thomas said. "This man has changed. Redemption is real, and we won't let you take him." The hunter's hand tightened on his gun. "You threatening us, preacher?" "I'm offering you a choice," the Reverend said calmly. "Leave peacefully, or try to take him and see what happens." The three hunters looked at each other, then at the 24 townspeople now standing in Clara's yard. Finally, the lead hunter holstered his gun. "This ain't over," he said. "We'll be back with the sheriff." "You do that," Tom Carter said, "and we'll tell him the same thing we told you." The hunters mounted up and rode away, but their parting looks promised this was far from finished. As the dust settled, Clara found herself shaking. Cole stepped up beside her. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. "Done what?" "Put yourself between me and them." "Why not?" Clara looked up at him. "You've been putting yourself between me and disaster for months. Fair's fair." "Clara, is it true?" she asked. "All of it? The crimes, the running, everything?" Cole's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Tell me." So he did. Right there in front of half of Red Hollow, Cole told the truth. About his family being murdered when he was 19. About hunting the killers and becoming a killer himself. About years of violence and anger and pain. About an old rancher who'd given him a chance when no one else would. About spending a decade trying to become someone worth respecting. When he finished, Clara asked the only question that mattered. "Who are you now?" "I don't know," Cole admitted. "But I'm trying to be someone good." "You are good," Clara said firmly. Then she turned to face the town. "This man saved us when every single one of you turned your backs. He worked our land, built our barn, kept us from starving. And now you want to stand here and judge him for who he used to be?" Silence. "My husband was a good man," Clara continued, her voice shaking. "But when he died, none of you helped. You watched us struggle, watched us fail, watched us starve. But Cole, this man you're calling an outlaw, he saw us and he helped. No judgment, no conditions. Just help." "Clara's right," Tom Carter said finally. "We failed her, and Cole stepped up when we should have." "So what do we do?" someone asked. "We stand by him," Tom said, "like we should have stood by her." The crowd murmured agreement, and Clara felt something break open in her chest. Not just for Cole, for herself, for the possibility that maybe, just maybe, community wasn't just a word people used when it was convenient. Later, after everyone left, Cole started to pack up his tools. "What are you doing?" Clara asked. "Leaving?" "No." "Clara, those men will come back, and when they do, we'll deal with it," Clara interrupted. "Together." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Clara said. "You're scared. You think you don't deserve help or loyalty or people who care about you. But you're wrong. Those men could hurt you, could hurt Lily. So could losing you," Clara said, and the words hung between them like a confession. "So could watching you walk away when we need you, when I—" She stopped, but Cole stepped closer. "When you what?" he asked quietly. "When I'm just starting to believe that maybe it's okay to trust again," Clara finished. "Maybe it's okay to let someone in. Maybe it's okay to—" "To what?" "To care," Clara whispered, "about someone other than Lily. To want something other than just surviving." Cole's hand came up to cup her face, and Clara leaned into it without thinking. "I care about you too," he said.
That's why I have to leave. To keep you safe. You keep us safe by staying, Clara said. By fighting. By not running away from the first hard thing. This isn't the first hard thing I've run from, Cole admitted. I've been running for 10 years. Then stop, Clara said. Stop running. Stay. Cole looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right. I'll stay. Promise me. Clara, promise me you won't disappear in the night. That you won't decide you know what's best for us and leave without saying goodbye. I promise, Cole said. And when he kissed her forehead gently before walking to his wagon, Clara believed him. She had to. Because the alternative was going back to being alone. And she'd just discovered she didn't know how to do that anymore. The bounty hunters didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. But Clara felt their absence like a storm building on the horizon. You couldn't see it yet, but you knew it was coming. Cole showed up at dawn like always, but something had changed. He was quieter, more careful. His eyes tracked movement on the road constantly, and he kept his gun closer than he ever had before. You're expecting them, Clara said on the third morning. They'll come back with a sheriff, Cole said. Legal papers. Maybe more men. The town stood up for you. The town stood up for the man they think I am now. Doesn't change what I was. Cole hammered a nail into the porch board with more force than necessary. Doesn't erase the bounty. So what are you going to do? Cole's jaw tightened. Whatever I have to. The vagueness of that answer terrified Clara more than any direct threat could have, because she heard what he wasn't saying, that he'd already decided how this would end, and it didn't include him staying. That afternoon, Lily came running from the road. Mama, Ryder's coming! Clara's heart dropped. But when the dust cleared, it wasn't the bounty hunters. It was Tom Carter and Bill Henderson, along with 3 other men from town. We need to talk to Cole, Tom said, dismounting. Cole stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving toward his gun before he caught himself. About what? About those bounty hunters, Tom said. We rode to Billings yesterday, talked to the territorial judge. Clara felt her breath catch. And? And the warrants they're carrying are 15 years old, Bill said. Judge says if we can prove Cole's been living clean and law-abiding, there's a chance he could get them dismissed. A chance, Cole repeated flatly. Better than running, Tom pointed out. Better than letting them drag you back to Kansas. What do I need to do? Cole asked. Show up when they come back. Let the sheriff hear testimony from everyone in Red Hollow. Let the judge see you're not the man you were. Tom met Cole's eyes. Fight for the life you've built, instead of throwing it away. And if it doesn't work? Cole asked. If the judge says the warrants stand? Tom was quiet for a moment. Then at least you tried. At least you didn't run. After the men left, Clara found Cole standing by the chicken coop, staring at nothing. You're still planning to leave, she said. Not a question. I'm planning to keep you safe. That's not the same thing as staying. No, Cole agreed. It's not. Clara stepped closer. You promised me you wouldn't disappear. You promised. I know what I promised. Cole's voice was rough. But if those men come back and things go bad, Clara, I've killed people. Not in war, not in self-defense. I hunted them down and I killed them because I was angry and hurt and wanted revenge. You were 19. You just lost your family. That doesn't make it right, Cole said. That doesn't erase what I did. And if the law decides I need to pay for that, maybe I should. No. Clara grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. You've been paying for it every day for 10 years. You've been trying to become someone better. That should count for something. Should and does are 2 different things. Then make them the same thing. Clara said fiercely. "Fight for it. Stop acting like you don't deserve a future." "Maybe I don't." "You do," Clara insisted. "You deserve happiness and peace and—" her voice cracked. "And someone who sees you for who you are, not who you were." Cole's hand came up to cover hers where it gripped his arm. "Clara, I see you," she whispered. "I see the man who rode through a blizzard to bring us food, who built our barn, who made my daughter laugh again, who gave me hope when I'd forgotten what that felt like."
"Hope's dangerous," Cole said quietly. "So is loving someone," Clara said, and then froze because she hadn't meant to say that word. Cole went very still. "Clara—" "Forget I said that." Clara tried to pull away, but Cole's grip on her hand tightened. "I can't forget it," he said, "because I feel the same way." The words hung between them like something fragile and precious. Clara's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "Then stay," she said. "Fight for us, for this, for what we're building." Cole looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her, and Clara let herself lean into his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong, and she thought about how many times that heart had been in danger, how many times he'd almost died before he found his way here. "I'll try," Cole said against her hair. "I can't promise it'll work, but I'll try. That's all I'm asking." But that night, lying awake in her bed, Clara wondered if trying would be enough. If love and loyalty and community could stand against the law and old debts and men with guns. She wondered, and she was afraid of the answer. The bounty hunters came back a week later, just like Cole said they would. This time they brought the sheriff from Billings, a hard-faced man named Garrett, who looked like he'd seen too much and trusted too little. "Cole Bennett," Sheriff Garrett said, dismounting in Clara's yard. "Or should I say, Caleb Boone?" "I answer to Cole now," Cole said. He stood with his hands visible, his gun still holstered. "Sheriff?" "You know why I'm here." "Yes, sir." "These men have legal warrants for your arrest, warrants that are still valid despite the time that's passed." Garrett pulled papers from his coat. "Says here you're wanted for murder in Kansas, multiple counts." "Those men killed my family," Cole said, his voice level. "I hunted them down and I killed them." "That's true." "So you admit it." "I've never denied it," Cole said, "but I'm not that man anymore." "Law doesn't care who you are now. Law cares who you were then." "Maybe the law should care about both," Clara said, stepping forward. She'd been standing in the doorway with Lily, but she couldn't stay silent anymore. Garrett looked at her. "You the widow Whitfield?" "I am. And this man saved my life and my daughter's life. Whatever he did 15 years ago, he's been nothing but honorable since." "That's your professional opinion?" Garrett's voice was dry. "That's the truth," Clara said firmly. "And if you talk to anyone in Red Hollow, they'll tell you the same thing." "Already did," Garrett said. "Tom Carter, Bill Henderson, half a dozen others, all singing Cole Bennett's praises." He looked back at Cole. "Seems you've made quite an impression." "I've tried to live right," Cole said. "Trying and succeeding are different things," Garrett said. "But I'll grant you this. Everyone I talk to believes you've changed. Question is whether that matters to the law." "It should," Cole said quietly. Garrett studied him for a long moment. Then he said something that made Clara's blood run cold. "I'm taking you to Billings. Judge will hear testimony, review the warrants, make a decision. Could go either way." "No," Clara said. "You can't." "I can and I am," Garrett interrupted. "That's how the law works, ma'am. We don't just let wanted men walk free because they've been nice to their neighbors." "When?" Cole asked. "Now," Garrett said. We leave in 10 minutes. Clara felt the world tilt.
That's not enough time.
It's what you get, Garrett said, not unkindly, but firmly. Say your goodbyes. Cole looked at Clara, and she saw everything in his eyes. Apology, regret, fear, and something that looked like love. He walked toward her slowly, and when he reached her, he cupped her face in both hands.
Take care of Lily, he said quietly. Take care of the farm. Take care of yourself. You're talking like you're not coming back, Clara whispered.
I might not.
Don't say that.
Clara, Cole's voice broke slightly. I need you to understand. If the judge says the warrants stand, I'll be going to Kansas, to prison, maybe to hang. And I need to know you and Lily will be all right.
We won't be all right,
Clara said, tears streaming down her face.
We need you.
You're stronger than you think.
Stop talking like this is goodbye,
Clara begged.
Please.
Cole kissed her forehead, then her cheeks, then, so gently it broke her heart, her lips. It was brief and sweet, and tasted like loss. I love you, he whispered. I need you to know that. Whatever happens, I love you.
Then fight, Clara said. Fight to come back to us.
I will. But as Sheriff Garrett led Cole toward his horse, Clara saw the resignation in Cole's shoulders. He'd already decided he wasn't coming back. He'd already started letting go.
Mama?
Lily's voice was small behind her.
Where are they taking Mr. Cole?
To see a judge, Clara said, her voice shaking. To decide if he can stay with us.
Will he come back?
Clara wanted to say yes, wanted to promise everything would be fine. But she'd learned the hard way that promises meant nothing against the cruelty of life. I don't know, sweetheart, she whispered. I don't know. They watched Cole ride away, flanked by the sheriff and the bounty hunters. Clara stood in her yard until they disappeared from view, her daughter's hand clutched in hers, her heart breaking into pieces she didn't know how to put back together. Tom Carter showed up an hour later. I'm riding to Billings, going to testify at the hearing.
When is it?
Clara asked. 3 days from now. Judge wants to hear everyone who's willing to speak for Cole. I'm coming, Clara said immediately.
Clara, it's a 2-day ride.
I don't care. I'm coming. Clara looked at him. He stood up for me when no one else would. I'm going to stand up for him. What about Lily? Mary Sullivan will watch her. Clara's voice was steel. I'm coming, Tom. Don't try to stop me. Tom nodded. All right, we leave at dawn. The ride to Billings was brutal. Clara hadn't been on a horse in months, and every mile made her body ache. But she didn't care. She kept thinking about Cole's face when Garrett said he was taking him. The way he'd kissed her like it was the last time. The way he'd already started saying goodbye. They reached Billings late on the second day. The hearing was set for the following morning at 10 o'clock. Clara spent the night in a boarding house, unable to sleep, running through what she'd say over and over in her mind. The courtroom was small and packed when they arrived. Half of Red Hollow had made the trip. Tom, Bill, Mary Sullivan and her husband, even Reverend Thomas. The bounty hunters sat in the front row, looking smug, and Cole. Cole sat at a table with his hands folded, his face expressionless. Judge Morrison was a white-haired man with sharp eyes and a sharper voice. This is a hearing to determine whether outstanding warrants for Caleb Boone, also known as Cole Bennett, should be enforced or dismissed. Sheriff Garrett? Garrett stood. Your Honor, the warrants are legitimate. Mr. Boone killed 6 men in Kansas 15 years ago, hunted them down over the course of 3 months, execution-style killings. He fled before he could be arrested. "And what's his story?" Judge Morrison asked. Cole stood. "Those 6 men murdered my family, Your Honor. My parents, my younger sister. They burned our farm to the ground with my family inside. I was 19. I was angry. I wanted justice, and when the law couldn't give it to me, I took it myself. By becoming a vigilante." "Yes, sir." "And after you killed them, where did you go?" "Everywhere," Cole said. "Worked ranches across 3 territories. Used different names. Tried to outrun what I'd done." "Did it work?" Morrison asked. "No, sir. Can't outrun yourself." "So what changed?" Cole was quiet for a moment. "Met a rancher in Wyoming who saw through my lies. Old man named Samuel Hendricks. He told me I had 2 choices: keep running until someone killed me or I killed myself, or stop and try to become someone worth respecting. He gave me work, taught me how to live without anger, gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one." "And you took it?" "Yes, sir. 10 years ago, I became Cole Bennett, and I've been trying every day since to be someone Samuel would have been proud of." "By helping widows?" Morrison's voice carried skepticism. "By helping people who need it," Cole said. "By working hard. By being the kind of man who builds things instead of destroying them." Morrison turned to the crowd. "Anyone here want to speak for Mr. Bennett?" Tom stood first. "Your Honor, I've known Cole 3 years. He's never been anything but honest and hard-working. Helped half the town with repairs, never asked for payment. When Clara Whitfield was starving, he helped her. When her farm was failing, he rebuilt it. That's not the action of a violent man." Bill Henderson spoke next, then Mary Sullivan, then Reverend Thomas. One by one, people from Red Hollow stood and testified to the man Cole had become. And with each testimony, Clara saw something in Cole's face crack, the belief that he was irredeemable, that his past defined him, that he didn't deserve redemption. Finally, Judge Morrison looked at Clara. "Mrs. Whitfield, you have something to say?" Clara stood, her legs shaking. "Your Honor, Cole Bennett saved my life, not just by bringing us food or fixing our barn. He saved me from believing I was alone in the world, that no one cared, that struggling alone was the only way to survive." "That's very touching," Morrison said. "But it doesn't change what he did 15 years ago." "No," Clara agreed. "It doesn't change it. But shouldn't what he's done for 10 years count for something? Shouldn't the choice to become better matter as much as the mistakes we've made?" The law is supposed to serve justice," Clara interrupted. "And there's no justice in punishing a man who's already spent 10 years punishing himself, who's already done everything he can to make amends." Morrison studied her. "You care about him." "I love him," Clara said, and the courtroom went silent. "I love him for the man he is, for the kindness he's shown my daughter, for the hope he's given us. And if you send him to prison or to hang for crimes he committed when he was a grieving teenager, you're not serving justice. You're serving revenge." "Strong words, Mrs. Whitfield." "True words, Your Honor." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Boone, or Bennett, or whatever you're calling yourself, stand up." Cole stood. "I've heard testimony about your character, about your work, about the man you've become." Morrison paused. "I've also read these warrants. They're legal, they're valid, and technically, I should enforce them." Clara's heart stopped. "However," Morrison continued, "the law also allows for judicial discretion in cases where circumstances warrant mercy. You killed 6 men. That's a fact. But those 6 men murdered your family. Also a fact. You were 19, acting out of grief and rage. That's context the law didn't consider 15 years ago. Cole's jaw tightened. What are you saying, Your Honor? I'm saying the man who committed those crimes doesn't exist anymore. He died somewhere in the last 10 years, and Cole Bennett took his place. Morrison looked at the bounty hunters. These warrants are dismissed, effective immediately. The courtroom erupted. The bounty hunters shot to their feet, shouting protests. Clara felt her knees give out, and Tom caught her. And Cole. Cole stood frozen, like he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. Order! Morrison's gavel slammed down. My decision is final. Mr. Bennett, you're free to go. But understand, this is your one chance. If you ever, and I mean ever, step outside the law again, these warrants will be reinstated, and you'll face the full consequences. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Cole said, his voice barely audible. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank the people who believed in you enough to ride 2 days to testify. Morrison's eyes found Clara. And especially thank that woman, because she's the reason I'm showing mercy today. Clara pushed through the crowd toward Cole. He met her halfway, and she threw her arms around him, not caring who was watching or what they thought. He held her so tight she could barely breathe, and she felt his whole body shaking. You're free, she whispered. Cole, you're free. Because of you, he said against her hair. Because you fought for me. We fought for each other. They stood there in the middle of the courtroom, holding on to each other like anchors in a storm. And for the first time since James died, Clara believed that maybe, just maybe, love was stronger than loss. That night, Red Hollow celebrated. Someone broke out whiskey. Someone else brought fiddles. The whole town gathered in front of the saloon, and they danced and sang like it was the 4th of July. Cole stood at the edge of it all, watching with an expression Clara couldn't quite read. She walked over to him. You're not celebrating, she said. Still doesn't feel real, Cole admitted. Keep waiting to wake up and find out it was a dream. It's real, Clara took his hand. You're free. You can stay. You can build a life without looking over your shoulder. With you? Cole asked quietly. If you want to. Clara, I've got nothing to offer you. No land, no money, just yourself, Clara interrupted. That's all I want. That's all I've ever wanted. Cole looked at her, and Clara saw everything in his eyes, hope and fear and love all tangled together. I'm not good at this, he said, at letting people in, at believing I deserve happiness. Neither am I, Clara said. But maybe we can figure it out together. Cole pulled her close, and they swayed to the music, even though neither of them were really dancing. They just held each other while Red Hollow celebrated around them. Clara? Cole said after a while. Yes? Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on us. And as the stars came out over Montana and the music played on, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, not just contentment, but genuine, bone-deep happiness. The kind that came from fighting for something and winning. The kind that came from loving someone who loved you back. The kind that came from finally believing that maybe the future held something better than just surviving. They rode back to Red Hollow the next morning, and Clara couldn't stop looking at Cole. He was different somehow. Lighter, like a weight he'd been carrying for 10 years had finally lifted. But there was something else, too. A wariness in his eyes that made her stomach clench. What's wrong? She asked, when they stopped to water the horses. Nothing's wrong.
Cole,
I'm just thinking, he said, about what happens now.
what do you mean?
Cole looked at her directly. The judge gave me a second chance. But that doesn't change the fact that I've got no land, no money, no real prospects beyond working at the Ridgeback.
So?
So you're a landowner. You've got 40 acres and a daughter to think about. And I'm... He stopped.
You're what?
Clara pressed. I'm nobody, Cole said quietly. An ex-outlaw with nothing to his name. You deserve better than that.
Clara felt something hot and fierce rise in her chest.
Don't you dare.
Don't I dare what?
Don't you dare decide what I deserve, Clara said. You just got your freedom back, and you're already trying to walk away?
I'm not walking away. I'm being realistic.
No, Clara said. You're being a coward.
Cole's eyes flashed. Excuse me?
You heard me. You're so used to running that you don't know how to stay, even when staying is the right thing, even when people want you to stay.
Clara stepped closer.
I fought for you in that courtroom. I told a judge I loved you in front of half the territory. And now you're going to stand here and tell me you're nobody?
Clara,
I don't want to hear it, she interrupted. When we get back to Red Hollow, you're going to decide. Either you're all in, with me, with Lily, with building a life together, or you're out. But you don't get to hover in between anymore.
You don't get to help us just enough to feel good about yourself while keeping one foot out the door. Cole stared at her. You're giving me an ultimatum.
I'm giving you clarity, Clara said, because I've spent 2 years being afraid to trust, afraid to hope, afraid to want anything beyond just surviving, and I'm done being afraid. So you decide. Are you done being afraid too?
She walked back to her horse without waiting for an answer, and they rode the rest of the way in silence. When they reached the Whitfield homestead, Lily came running out of Mary Sullivan's wagon.
Mama, Mr. Cole!
She threw herself at both of them.
Did you win? Can he stay?
He can stay, Clara said, hugging her daughter tight.
Forever?
Lily asked. Clara looked at Cole.
That's up to him.
Cole's jaw worked, but he didn't answer. He just nodded at Clara, climbed back on his horse, and rode toward the Ridgeback without another word.
Mama?
Lily's voice was small.
Is Mr. Cole mad at us?
No, sweetheart, Clara said, her throat tight. He's just confused.
About what?
About whether he's allowed to be happy.
Lily frowned. That's silly. Everyone's allowed to be happy.
I know, Clara said. But sometimes grown-ups forget that. Cole didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. Clara threw herself into work, preparing the fields for planting, tending the chickens, repairing what still needed repairing. The farm looked better than it had in years, and she knew that was Cole's doing. Every fence post, every board, every nail. On the third day, Tom Carter rode out. Heard Cole's been staying at the Ridgeback, he said.
Seems so.
You two have a fight?
Something like that, Clara said. I told him he needed to decide if he was in or out. Apparently, he's taking his time deciding.
Tom was quiet for a moment. That man loves you, Clara. Anyone with eyes can see it. Then why isn't he here? Because loving someone and believing you deserve them are two different things, Tom said. Cole spent 15 years thinking he was beyond redemption. Can't just flip a switch and change that overnight.
So what am I supposed to do? Clara asked. Wait? Hope? Pretend like my heart isn't breaking every day he stays away?
You're supposed to fight for him, Tom said. Like you did in that courtroom. You think Cole's the only one who gets to be scared? The only one who has to take a risk?
Clara looked at him. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe he needs to know you're serious. That this isn't just gratitude or convenience. That you're willing to put yourself out there the same way he has. I already told him I loved him. In a courtroom, when you were trying to save his life, Tom pointed out. That's different from choosing him when the danger's past. When it's just about wanting him, not needing him. Clara's hands clenched.
I don't know how to do that.
Sure you do, Tom said. You just have to be brave enough to try. That night, Clara lay awake thinking about Tom's words. About fear and risk and love. About the difference between needing someone and wanting them. About how she'd spent 2 years building walls, and Cole had spent 10 years doing the same thing. Maybe they were both cowards. Or maybe they were both just people who'd been hurt too many times and forgotten how to be vulnerable. Either way, something had to change. The Spring Market Festival was in 3 days. The whole town would be there, buying, selling, celebrating the end of winter. Clara had already planned to bring eggs to sell, but now, looking at the ceiling of her cabin, she made a different plan. A terrifying plan. A plan that would either give her everything she wanted or break her completely. But she was done being afraid.
The morning of the festival, Clara dressed Lily in her best dress and put on the only nice outfit she had left, a blue calico that had been her mother's. It was faded and patched, but it was clean, and it made her feel like someone worth noticing.
You look pretty, Mama, Lily said. Thank you, sweetheart. Are we going to see Mr. Cole today? I hope so, Clara said. Then, more firmly, yes, we are. Red Hollow was packed when they arrived. Vendors lined the main street, selling everything from tools to pies to livestock. Children ran wild between the stalls. Someone had set up a makeshift stage for music and announcements. And standing near the livery stable, talking to Bill Henderson, was Cole. Clara's heart stuttered. He looked the same worn canvas coat, same cautious eyes scanning the crowd. But when his gaze landed on her, something shifted in his expression. Something raw and hungry and scared all at once. She walked toward him before she could lose her nerve.
Mrs. Whitfield, Bill said, tipping his hat. Good to see you.
Mr. Henderson. Clara kept her eyes on Cole. Could I borrow Cole for a moment? Of course. Bill glanced between them, clearly sensing the tension. I'll just go check on that thing. When they were alone, or as alone as you could be in a crowded street, Clara spoke. We need to talk, she said. Clara, no, you're going to listen. Clara took a breath. I meant what I said in that courtroom. I love you. Not because you fixed my barn or brought us food or saved us. I love you because of who you are. Because you're kind and steady, and you see people, really see them, in a way most people don't. Cole's throat worked. Clara, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Clara interrupted. You think you don't deserve to be happy. You think your past defines you. You think if you stay, you'll somehow ruin everything. She stepped closer. But you're wrong. Am I? Cole's voice was rough.
Because I've spent 3 days trying to figure out how to be what you need, and I keep coming back to the same answer. I can't. I'm not asking you to be anything other than yourself. But myself isn't enough, Cole said, and there was so much pain in his voice that Clara wanted to weep. I've got nothing to offer you, Clara. No land, no money, no family name worth anything. Just myself, and that's everything, Clara said. That's everything. Cole shook his head. You say that now, but what about in a year, 5 years, when you realize you've tied yourself to a man with a past that's always going to haunt him? When Lily asks questions about who I was and what I did, then we'll answer them honestly, Clara said. We'll tell her that people make mistakes, that redemption is real,
that becoming better is possible. And we'll show her what love looks like, messy and imperfect and brave.
That's a hell of a gamble, Cole said quietly.
So is loving anyone, Clara said.
So is trusting anyone. So is hoping that tomorrow will be better than today. But I'm willing to take that gamble with you. The question is, are you willing to take it with me? Cole stared at her, and Clara saw the war happening behind his eyes. Fear and hope battling for dominance. The old habit of running versus the new possibility of staying. I don't know how to do this, he finally said. How to be someone's partner, Clara supplied. Husband. Father to Lily. Part of a family. I know. Neither do I. James died before we really figured it out. And I've been alone so long, I've forgotten what it's like to share my life with someone. So, what do we do? Clara's heart pounded so hard, she thought everyone in Red Hollow could probably hear it. This was it. The moment that would define everything. She looked around at the crowd gathering for the festival announcements. At Tom Carter watching from near the stage. At Mary Sullivan and her husband. At half the town that had ridden to Billings to testify for Cole. At Lily, standing a few feet away, watching them with wide, hopeful eyes. She looked at all of them, and then she made her choice. We get brave, Clara said. She took Cole's hand and pulled him toward the stage. Clara, what do you— Trust me, she said. Please. Tom saw them coming and stepped aside, giving Clara space on the stage. Someone turned down the music. People started noticing, conversations dying as they realized something was happening. Clara? Cole's voice was tight. What are you doing? Something terrifying, Clara admitted. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. But she didn't let go of Cole's hand. Something I should have done 3 days ago. She turned to face the crowd, faced all of Red Hollow, all the people who'd watched her fail, all the people who'd watched her struggle, all the people who'd finally watched her fight. Most of you know me, Clara said, and her voice only shook a little. You know I've spent 2 years barely surviving. You know I almost lost everything. You know I was too proud to ask for help and too scared to accept it when it was offered. The crowd was silent, waiting. And most of you know Cole, Clara continued. You know what he did for me, for my daughter, for this whole town. You know he's a good man who made mistakes when he was young and has spent every day since trying to make amends. Cole's hand tightened around hers. Clara, I'm not finished, Clara said. She looked at him, really looked at him. At the man who'd saved her, at the man she loved, at the man who was still too scared to believe he deserved saving himself. For 2 years I've been terrified of hope, Clara said. Terrified of trusting. Terrified of wanting anything beyond just surviving. But Cole taught me something. He taught me that survival isn't the same as living. That isolation isn't the same as safety. That running from pain doesn't make it hurt less. It just makes you hurt alone. Tears pricked her eyes, but she didn't look away from Cole's face. He taught me to be brave, Clara said. To fight for what matters. To believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserve something better than the scraps life's been giving me. You do, Cole said quietly. You deserve everything. So do you, Clara said. And if you won't believe that yourself, then I'm going to make you believe it. She took a breath. This was it. The moment that terrified her more than anything else in her life. More than James dying. More than failing the farm. More than starving with Lily in the dead of winter. This moment, where she put her heart completely on the line, with no guarantee it wouldn't get shattered. Cole Bennett, Clara said,
and her voice rang clear across the crowd. "I love you. I love the way you work without complaining.
The way you're gentle with my daughter. The way you see what needs doing and you just do it. I love that you've spent 10 years trying to become someone better. And I love that you succeeded." Cole's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Clara, I love you," Clara said again, stronger now. "And I know you're scared. I know you think you don't deserve this. But I'm scared too, and I'm doing it anyway. So I'm going to ask you something in front of this entire town, and you're going to answer honestly. And whatever happens after that, at least we'll both know we were brave enough to try." She squeezed his hand, and then she said the 7 words that would change everything. "Please marry me and stay here with us." The crowd gasped. Someone dropped something that clattered against the wooden boardwalk. Lily's small voice called out, "Say yes, Mr. Cole." But Clara only saw Cole. Cole, whose eyes were wide with shock. Cole, whose hand was trembling in hers. Cole, who looked like he'd just been offered something he'd never dared to want. "Clara," he said, and his voice broke. "You can't. You don't." "I do," Clara said firmly. "I want you. Not because I need you, though I do. Not because I'm grateful, though I am. But because I choose you. Every day, every moment. I choose you." Cole stood frozen for what felt like forever. Clara could hear her own heartbeat in her ears, could feel the entire town holding its breath, could see Tom Carter grinning like a fool, and Mary Sullivan crying into her handkerchief. And then Cole moved. He pulled her close, one hand cupping her face, and kissed her. Not gently like before, not carefully, but with everything he'd been holding back, all the fear and hope and desperate, terrified love. The crowd erupted. People cheered. Someone whistled. Lily launched herself onto the stage and wrapped her arms around both of them. When they finally broke apart, Cole pressed his forehead to Clara's. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes to everything. Yes to you and Lily. Yes to staying. Yes to being brave. Yes to believing I might actually deserve this." "You do deserve it," Clara said. "I'm starting to believe that," Cole admitted. "Because you believe it, and I trust you more than I trust myself." "That's a start," Clara said, smiling through her tears. Cole pulled back just enough to look at the crowd, at all the people watching, at the town that had rejected him and then defended him, and was now celebrating him. "I guess we're getting married," he said, and there was wonder in his voice. "Guess so," Clara said, "in front of the whole town." "Seemed appropriate," Clara said, "since the whole town's been watching our story anyway." Cole laughed, actually laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound Clara had ever heard. "Fair enough." Tom Carter climbed onto the stage. "Reverend Thomas is right here. We could do this now if you want." "Now?" Clara's eyes went wide. "Why wait?" Tom asked. "You've both been dancing around this for months. Might as well make it official." Clara looked at Cole. "What do you think?" Cole looked at her, at Lily, at the town gathered around them. "I think I've spent 15 years waiting for a life worth living. I'm done waiting." "Is that a yes?" Clara asked. "That's a hell yes," Cole said. So they got married right there, on a makeshift stage in the middle of Red Hollow's Spring Market Festival, with Lily standing between them and the whole town as witnesses. Clara in her faded blue calico, and Cole in his work clothes. No fancy dress, no elaborate ceremony. Just 2 people who'd been broken, choosing to heal together. When Reverend Thomas pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed Clara again, and this time it felt like a promise, like a beginning, like everything they'd both been afraid to hope for. "I love you," Cole said against her lips. "I love you too,"
Clara said.
And I'm going to keep saying it until you believe you deserve it. Might take a while, Cole warned. Good thing we have forever, Clara said. That night, after the celebration died down and they'd taken Lily home and tucked her into bed, Clara and Cole stood on the porch of the Whitfield homestead, their homestead now, and looked at the land they'd rebuilt together. "Think we'll make it?" Cole asked quietly. "We already have," Clara said. "Everything after this is just bonus." Cole pulled her close, and they stood there in the darkness, two people who'd been alone, learning how to be together. Two people who'd been broken, learning how to be whole. Two people who'd spent years running, finally brave enough to stand still. "Thank you," Cole said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing something worth saving. For being brave enough to take a chance on someone like me." "Someone like you," Clara repeated. "You mean someone kind? Someone loyal? Someone who spent 10 years trying to become better?" She looked up at him. "Cole, you're not a risk. You're the safest bet I've ever made." Cole's arms tightened around her. "I'm going to spend every day trying to be worthy of that faith." "You already are," Clara said. "You just have to believe it." And as they stood there together, husband and wife, partners, two people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk toward the light, Clara felt something settle in her chest that she hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, not just happiness, but certainty. The bone-deep knowledge that they'd fought for something real, something lasting, something worth every terrifying moment it took to get here. Red Hollow would tell their story for generations, not as the tragedy of a widow and an outlaw, but as the triumph of two broken people who refused to stay broken, who chose love over fear, who proved that redemption wasn't just possible, but inevitable when you were brave enough to fight for it. Clara Whitfield and Cole Bennett had both learned the hardest lesson the frontier had to teach. Survival was important, but it wasn't enough. Real life, the kind worth living, required risk and trust and the courage to believe that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. They'd taken that risk, made that choice, found that courage. And in doing so, they'd built something stronger than either of them could have built alone. A family, a home, a future that belonged to them not because it was given, but because they'd earned it with every fence post driven, every seed planted, every moment they chose to stay when running would have been easier. The 7 words Clara spoke that day in front of Red Hollow changed everything. Not just for her, but for Cole, for Lily, for an entire town that learned what it meant to truly give someone a second chance. And when their story was told in years to come, it would always end the same way. With two people standing on a porch in Montana, holding each other against the darkness. Proof that love was stronger than fear, that hope was stronger than despair, and that the bravest thing anyone could ever do was choose to stay when everything in them wanted to run.